forget to do that. If you can just post in the chat group where you are watching or listening from. I am in Margate, so Margaret River, Western Australia, for those who are over in this side of West Oz. I know there's plenty over east as well. Just pop in the chat group so I know where you are, what time zone you are in. Some of these guys will be like 8 p.m. probably. Sydney, yeah, cool. You'll be 8 o'clock. So thanks for jumping in. Oh, Yangebup. Oh, my best friend lives in Yangebup, actually. I'm going to see her next weekend. I'm doing a workshop for, it's called Strong by Fremantle. It's a Pilates studio in Freo, so I'm going to stay up that way. Melbourne, cool. Yep, you're 2 hours ahead as well. Cool, awesome. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to share screen with you. Mildura Big. Oh, I've got friends who live in Mildura as well. Amazing. I'm going to share screen with you, show you a bit of stuff. I'm going to flick through a few different tabs and whatnot. If at any point you've got questions, chuck them in the chat group, because it's usually kind of easier to ask the questions as you go, and I'd rather it be a little bit more interactive for you, because otherwise what happens, because I'm actually quite a nerd, is that I will rabbit hole down topics, and then you'll be like, nah, Sheridan, you've lost me, and it'll actually get quite boring for you. So make sure you ask questions and keep it relevant for you, because that's how you're going to get the most out of this time together. And because you've actually made the effort to show up live, I feel like you should get the most value out of the time we're going to spend. So please feel free to do that. You're never interrupting my train of thought. It doesn't bother me at all. I do this all the time. Last night we had Flip, it would have been, let me just share screen this. It was an hour and a half in the root cause program doing calls and questioning. So I'm used to people just interrupting me all day long. All right, so this is going to be our presentation, and I've got a few other things I'm going to show you guys to make it really helpful for you. So let's pop that one up. Cool. So test, don't guess is kind of my mantra. Getting to the root cause is also the crux of what I do. So there's a real range of people that I interact with on a day-to-day basis. Some are only just hearing of gut health and are really like nuance and are like, oh, what does bacteria and microbiome mean? So if that's you, I'll try not to go over your head too much, because that can happen quite quickly. Then you sort of got those in the middle who are like, heard of gut health, know it's kind of trendy, don't really know how it impacts my hormones, my weight loss, my skin. So that's kind of the next step. And then there's those who are like, heard of functional testing, want to do the testing, tell me more, Sheridan, how do I do it? What testing do I need to do? Why do I even do your testing as opposed to a GP's testing? And that's awesome. The other people who tend to ask like the really specific questions like, how many days is the stool test, and where do I do the stool test, and what kind of data is it showing me, as opposed to some people like, oh, I didn't even know you had another kind of stool test. So I try to bridge the gap for you guys so that you sort of have awareness, have a bit of knowledge, and can also walk away from today going, cool, these are my symptoms. This is what I'm going to do moving forward. And you have like a little bit of clarity around sort of what you can be doing. So if you don't know me, like if you haven't followed my stuff, you haven't been on my website, you haven't listened to my podcast, anything like that, hello, welcome to my world. It's nice to have you here. My background, so my expertise, I actually had someone question me on this today. So I was chatting to a lady who's going to jump into the root cause program. She was like, what is your qualifications? And I was like, well, where do I start? So I've got about 7 years of studying behind me. So that's what makes me different to a naturopath, or just what I call a standard nutritionist. So my a standard nutritionist or naturopath is a couple of years, usually 3-ish years. Dietitian is 3 to 4 years from memory. So that's sort of the baseline of that. My undergrad is sports science. I actually did sports science, and then I went on to do my master's of nutrition, so master of human nutrition, and then have done like another couple of years of functional medicine type stuff. So your functional diagnostic nutritions, a lot of courses, development around microbiome, hormone testing, interaction of the two. So my knowledge of it is quite specific, and I know a lot about testing, whereas generally a naturopath or a standard nutritionist won't run functional testing. Sometimes they do, but their knowledge might only be limited to really basic things like hormones. Say, like, you get something comprehensive like a Dutch test, and they're just looking at estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, whereas I start to look at the metabolites, the pathways, the liver, the adrenals, and I nerd out on a bit more because my training is very extensive in it. So that's what sets me apart, and that's what makes me different. I feel like it goes, like in my head, it kind of goes functional GP, like integrative GP. Finding a good one is so freaking hard, but if you can find a good integrative GP, they are really expensive, but it means they can prescribe antibiotics and medication. They sort of just do ad hoc one-off appointments just because they are quite expensive, but they can prescribe things. Not all of them do all the testing, but that's kind of the top. And then you have people like me who are bridging the gap and going, okay, I'll run all the testing, I'll do everything. If it comes back that you've got Crohn's, which I've had 2 in the last week, then I will definitely refer you to a GP and we'll work together. And then you sort of get your naturopath nutritionists who are doing amazing things at their level, but they're not doing the in-depth functional testing, and they don't offer the same support around that as opposed to someone like myself. So there is different layers there. You go to different people at different times for different things. I've seen a lot of practice over the years, and from my experience, which I'll get into later, but my experience has really shaped the program I run today, which gets women results. So I know what does work and I know what doesn't work. And at the end of the day, I want to see people heal and change. And if they're not healing and changing, then I have to change my business model to make sure that people are actually getting those results, because spending a heap of money on testing and not getting the results from it is probably even worse than walking into your GP and telling you you're fine, because either way, one way you've spent, $50, $60, $70, $80 at a GP, another way you've spent $300-400 on a stool test. And if your practitioner doesn't understand your testing properly, that is also really frustrating. So I hope that gives you some clarity. My podcast has a heap of information on the stuff I'll chat about tonight. I'm going to keep it briefer tonight. I won't nerd out in things as much, but I've got 160 episodes there. So you will be able to find something relevant to what your specific goal is. So if you can pop in the chat box for me, what are you hoping to get out of tonight? And or what is your top symptom? Is it I'm bloated? Is it constipation? Is it periods? Is it skin? What's a symptom you're struggling with? Is it weight? And what's brought you here tonight? Because usually for most people, it's like, I'm bloated, I need answers. Or I've been told I've got IBS, I need answers. Or my GP says I'm fine and I'm not fine. If you can just chuck in the chat box for me, what is it for you? What are you hoping to get out tonight? That way I can tailor it as I go. Because like I said, most people, there is sort of a specific thing that they're really here for and they really want to learn about. Pop in the chat box for me, guys, if you can, please, while I wait for that. The other thing I'm going to pop in there for you while I wait for you guys to pop that in, let me see if I can get out of this one. All right, so if you are someone who is struggling with stuff at the moment, what I'm going to chuck in the chat group link for you, perimenopause, Dutch testing, Lisa, it's going to be a Dutch test, definitely. If you don't follow Dr. Carrie Jones, she is the founder of the Dutch test, and I'll touch on the Dutch test a bit tonight, but she's the founder of the Dutch test, and she's just incredible. Her research is awesome. And this is the thing that I love, like the testing is such high quality and the results you see from it, especially with HRT, hormones, adrenal fatigue, acne, psoriasis, gut issues, it's all amazing. There's such good results when you actually dig deeper into that data. So I'm going to jump the gun here a bit and say, if you're listening and you're like, these tools are all going to be really helpful for me, I'm going to pop in the chat box for you just my free gut health planning session link. So if you decide that, yes, cool, Sheridan, I really want to know more and I want to create a clear plan, please make sure you book a call with me so that we can chat and we can have, usually I always say 20 minutes, but like this morning, the sessions I took were like 40 minutes, but allow 20 minutes, have your laptop open so that I can actually chat to you properly and go, hey, let's create a clear plan on these things and these testings for you. So make sure you book one of those from tonight, guys, because I think once you understand a bit about the testing, your brain, you'll have like these light bulb moments and you'll be like, damn it, wow, okay, I didn't know that. I need to know more. Daniela, bloating, diarrhea, constipation, heartburn, maybe weight gain. Okay, all the things. IBS is what people call it, irritable bowel syndrome. So when I first started my business, my catch line on everything was IBS is a BS diagnosis, because every single female I was seeing was being told they had IBS by their GP, and it's actually SIBO. 99% of the cases is a small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. So it's super frustrating. Random bloating, we'll go into that. That is bacteria then. Diarrhea, loose stool, so that's your classic IBS. Heartburn, SIBO. Hands down, every single heartburn case I see is SIBO. As soon as they, like 2 or not even 2 weeks, probably like a week into my program, their heartburn goes away just from doing specific things for SIBO alone. Weight gain, yeah, perimenopause, that hormonal stuff. If you're exercising and eating well, I would be thinking cortisol, hormones. Bloating, acid reflux, SIBO, loose stools, constipation, perimenopause, weight gain, hormones. Yeah, cool. Awesome. So we're all on the same page here, which I love. So let's see if I can get this back again. Cool. So you're here mostly because you're frustrated, you're doing all the things, you're seeing your GP, you've run bloods, maybe you've run a GP stool sample. It's very common. I talk to people on Instagram, they're like, but I did the stool testing and I don't have answers. And I'm like, yeah, okay, but what stool testing did you do? And usually it's just a GP stool test. So I'll explain in a couple of slides how that's extremely different from the comprehensive testing and how it only shows a couple key things. Most of the women I work with, I want to say 90%, are exercising and are eating quote unquote healthy. So, and by healthy, I just mean 80-20, as in like they're not eating bags of lollies, they're not eating bags of chocolate, they're not sitting on the couch eating McDonald's all day, they're not having takeaway every single day, they're generally cooking from home, they're generally eating a couple bits of fruit, veggies each day, protein with most meals. That's like probably 60-70% in my program. Then 20-30% in my program are fitness coaches, PTs, athletes, so people who are tracking macros and more, or doing recreational athletes like myself. Okay, so I don't compete, but I train a lot, so I need to make sure I'm eating enough food or I'll lose weight and lose my period. So there's a mix of them, but no one is coming in and no one I'm having contact with is saying, well, yeah, I sit on my ass all day and I'm wondering why I'm bloated or putting on weight. That is not the reality of the people that I'm seeing or working with. So you're doing all these things, yet you're still having gut symptoms, you're still having hormone symptoms, you're still having fatigue, and you're still having issues with weight. So we need to understand why. What is the missing link there? And the reason I'm so curious about that, or was so curious about that, is because that was me. Okay, so I went for 10 years of constipation, 7 years of no periods, severe acne, severe fatigue, and I was freaking studying sports science. I played soccer 2-3 times a week. I did CrossFit 5-6 times a week. So I was exercising and I was healthy, but my body was shutting down on me. And it was a real, like, the medical approach was like, well, you're fine. I was like, I don't have a period. Don't seem that fine. I only have a poo once a week. I don't understand how that's fine. I've got psoriasis. I've got acne. I've got bloating. This is not fine. So it was that frustration that led me to start my business. So you want gut health answers without the guesswork, because what happens is that most women start trying things. They start changing their diets. They start cutting gluten, cutting dairy. They look at, maybe their protein intake a bit. They look at supplements. So you don't need to be told to do more because you're already doing things. You need clarity, and that's where the missing link is for most people, is just getting clarity on, okay, GP doesn't know, what do I do now? So if you just had a clear plan, you could heal your gut, you could heal your hormones, because we know, I know, I'm educating and awareing people, that your gut health impacts weight loss, energy, skin, mood, libido. I always use this triangle example, right? So there's a pyramid. Bottom of the pyramid is your gut health. If your gut health is not good, as in you're not digesting food, absorbing nutrients, having regular bowel movements, I don't know how in the world you expect your thyroid, your adrenal glands, your hormones to be happy, okay? So we need to start at the bottom and have a ground up approach. We need to see you being able to absorb those nutrients so that you can create hormones. Your thyroid needs sugars, it needs energies, it needs carbs. We need to be able to digest carbohydrates in your gut. Do you know how many women come to me who can't tolerate carbs, or who get bloated from them, or who've been in keto for years to lose weight and now they're having issues? This is the problem. We're getting told one thing and the reality is something else. So gut health is key. Fix your gut. Move up to your sex hormones, your thyroid, your adrenal glands, all those things. And then we see the fine-tuned stuff, the energy, the skin, those things, that the hair, the nails, all those things get better right at the pinnacle when we work our way up. So I'm just going to pop this link in here for you as well. So this has just got your testing guides. I'll just make sure you have access to that in case you don't have that one already. So that'll be your test, I guess, cheat sheet. All right, so I touched on this briefly, but basically my 30-second elevator pitch is, was doing all the things, wasn't getting the results. No periods, constipation, skin concerns, fatigue, but I was eating well and exercising. Bloods came back normal, brain MRI came back normal. They did bone marrow biopsy testing. They literally did everything. I was so sick of going to the hospital and being told that, oh, now we'll run this. Immunologist, gynecologist. Everyone saw me and everyone was like, seems weird, but you'll be fine. I'm like, I don't. If this is fine, I went out because this is shit. So our first thing is, why are your GP results coming back normal? So that's the thing. Why are they saying to you, you are fine? There's a couple elements to that. One is the time thing. They've got 10 minutes, maybe 20, if you're willing to pay double. It's a time thing. I couldn't do my job with you in 10 minutes, okay? Inside the root cause program, my consults with you are minimum 30 to 40 minutes, okay? And I need to see you every 6 to 8 weeks to ensure you're moving forward. Plus, you have weekly check-ins, plus there's a weekly group call, plus there's a hyperactive Facebook group. Your GP does not have any of those things, so you can't expect them to give you the same kind of support that a practitioner who has a well-built program does. So that's an obvious thing, right? But generally, your bloods may look normal if they're running the bare minimum. So full blood count, liver enzymes, just TSH, not the full thing, just serum iron, not the full iron studies. So those basic ones may actually come back normal if you have symptoms. So that's part of it. What are they actually running? So when they say you're fine, what do they mean by that? Secondary to that, I do see test results that are classed as fine, but actually aren't fine, okay? So, for example, the range of ferritin in the body that is classed as okay is something like it's around 30 to I think 200, right? So that's their range. Can you imagine how different the person at 30 is going to feel as opposed to the person at 200? Like they're not even close, right? So if someone's coming to me saying they're tired, usually I actually say their iron lower than that, but let's say it's 30, I'm going to be like, well, yeah, your iron's low. And they're going to be like, well, no, my GP said it's fine. I'm like, no, you want to be at minimum 100. Like, let's actually get something in your body. So there is a really broad range because the data they're running is not on a healthy population. They're not taking 500 Sheridans who are OCD about eating beef liver and testing their iron, right? They're taking the general population. So your data is going to be skewed. So that's why we need to look at functional reference ranges. Same with thyroid testing, same with everything else. Their range is too wide. It's not focused on making you feel optimal. They don't look at all your key nutrients. So it's really hard. I get the women to run zinc, copper, DHEA, full thyroid, morning cortisol, insulin, sex hormones, all those things. I can guarantee you no one gets a full panel done from their GP. We generally end up ordering some privately, or we just bypass the GP and do the whole thing privately, depending as to what the top symptom is, what we actually need, and what I'm trying to get out of it. So it's very rare. But then at the same time, you can have two people. One will go to a GP, they'll get zinc run. Someone else will go to a GP and they'll be like, we never run zinc. Doctors don't run zinc. And I know it's a load of crap because they literally did it for somebody else. So it's looking at what nutrients they run. Are they running full panels and what is their reference ranges? Because that's kind of what it comes down to. That's why you can sit there and they can say, hey, you're fine. Move on. You'll get over it. It's in your head. Eat more fiber. You're just perimenopausal. It's just anxiety. You're just nerves. That's why you've got loose stools. Like there's no solid answers for it. Or my favorite one, you've got IBS. And I'm like, yeah, well, we all know that IBS is not a diagnosis because what is it actually saying? Your bowel is irritable. Okay. So it's like, so what? It doesn't tell me why it's irritated. So that's probably my most frustrating one. Gina's a classic example, the chick who's in this bloating photos here. GPs are all saying she's fine, there's no issues, this and that. Ran a SIBO test, ran blood markers, nutrient deficient, she wasn't absorbing anything and had a large bacterial overgrowth. Simply by addressing that, her bloating changed. She didn't change her exercise routine, she didn't cut calories, it was purely from optimizing her gut health. So secondly, why is eating healthy not the answer? And Izzy's one of my favorite people to show you that. And I'll try and explain this better if I show you who she is and what she does. So for example, what you have and what I have with a lot of women I work with, right, is that they are healthy people. So let me just show Izzy, for example, Izzy Beeston. So she's an old client of mine, and what you will find is that the women who can still be doing it all are still having gut symptoms. So Izzy's a PT, she's a coach, she does building, she does comps, she does all that stuff, right? We did her SIBO test, her stool test. This was, I don't know, probably like 12 months ago. And her gut microbiome was so out of whack, right? So this is the thing. She wasn't on an unhealthy diet. She wasn't doing bad things. Go back to that. But she was having these severe dermatitis breakouts. She was getting this severe bloating, this constipation, no libido, no sex drive, brain fog, right? When we ran her testing and we found the SIBO and we found really dysbiotic things in the large intestine, it made sense. But you wouldn't have known that from the outset. You wouldn't even have known that from her bloods because her bloods was showing up as fine. So this is the thing. You can you can do the healthy thing. You can cut gluten and dairy, you can change your macros, you can change your diet. But if you're getting the random bloating, if you're getting immune flares, you need to look at what's growing in your gut microbiome. Allergies are different because allergies will be more consistent, right? So if you have, like, when I got sick, so I was 18 when all my shit started. I went overseas, went to Bali, picked up SIBO, heap of parasites, all this stuff, didn't know it, struggled with constipation for years till I came across functional nutrition, and then was like, well, stuff this, no one's helping me, I just have to help myself, and went on and studied. I found that the bacteria and the things that are coming from there. So you get allergies are a consistent, what's the word for it? A consistent response to food, right? Whereas bacteria will be a lot more random. So you won't be able to pick what's going on. Whereas your immune flares, so your allergies, like I became intolerant to gluten after getting sick. So my immune system got really pissed off from the Blastocystis hominis parasite. I got glandular fever and it stuffed the way my immune system reacted to gluten. So now for the last 10, 12 years, I don't eat it because I get severe symptoms from it. So allergies will be quite consistent. I remove gluten, I'm fine, I have no gut issues, right? Most people I'm working with, that is not the case. They're reacting to garlic, onion, too many apples, a banana, a glass of water. I got a client who joined my program the other day who's literally waking up bloated or drinks water and is bloated. So it's hard to pick when it's a bacterial parasite thing, right? So this then begs the question, well, what testing, Sheridan, should you actually be running? Like, what should I be doing then? So the main testing I do inside my program is gut testing. So your large intestine and your small intestine. Your hormone testing, there's a couple different types you can do for that, which are really accurate. Vaginal microbiome testing, I do a lot of. So I see a lot of women with herpes, thrush, BV, so bacterial vaginosis, reoccurring infections, coming back every cycle, random flares after sex. It's probably in like 70% of my program. Your functional blood work, of course, which I've touched on, and your adrenal testing. So again, there's a couple ways to test the adrenal glands. Saliva, urine, same as your hormones, saliva, urine are your best bet. Your vaginal's a swab you do at home, and your gut is your stool and your breath testing, but I'll touch on these. So if you're asking yourself, why can't I lose weight? Why am I reacting to foods? Why am I bloated? Why is my skin breaking out? Why am I tired? What's going on with my period? Am I spotting? Is it heavy? Is it painful? Is it endo? You need to run some functional testing. There is no way to get quality answers without running quality tests. I had someone come to me the other day before they joined my program, and they were like, oh, I got diagnosed with SIBO. I did a rant on this in my story. So if you watch my stories, that was a couple of days ago. She got diagnosed with SIBO, which is this, by blood testing, which is basically impossible because you need to understand if it is what you can see, that grey line, hydrogen, or that black line, methane. You're looking for a type of bacteria. The bacteria is not in your blood, it's in your small intestine and it's growing in there. It's fermenting your food, and that's what's giving you the bloating, the constipation, and the loose stools. There are hundreds of testimonials on my Instagram of women who've had SIBO, and it's linked to so many things. Like I said, the IBS stuff, endometriosis is a big one linked into SIBO, skin concerns, and food allergies. But the big one is the IBS. Like most cases, when you go down a rabbit hole of SIBO, most cases are linked back to IBS and SIBO have that link. So you do a breath test, we analyze the bacteria in there, and then we can create a treatment plan. So what is it actually telling us? It's telling us what is growing in your gut that is blocking nutrient absorption, that is fermenting your food, and that is giving you gut symptoms. It will give us a time frame based on the overgrowth, and it will tell you, not the testing, I will, but it will tell you what herbs to use, so you're not treating blindfold. Different bacteria respond to different herbs. So that's why I always recommend SIBO testing. Breath test, really easy, do it at home. Large intestinal bacterial overgrowth, this is like my all-time favorite test. It is nothing like your GP's test. I just want to like say that again for everybody. It's nothing like your GP's test. That will just show like a couple parasites and a couple bacteria, okay? It doesn't go in depth to show you inflammation, digestion, leaky gut, liver, good bacteria, infections, yeast. You can see all the stuff showing up on this report, and this is just the front page of it, as opposed to when you think about what your GP actually shows you, it's literally just telling you you've got salmonella or you've got SIBO, or let's see if I can open that one. Usually it's just showing big infections that are actually going to impact your direct quality of life. Let's open that with Adobe. Because they want to keep you alive, obviously, right? So that's their job. Let me just make sure I flip that to the right screen. That should. You guys see the stool test? It tells me it's showing, so you should be able to. Yeah, GP testing is just showing you things that are going to essentially kill you or put you in a lot of pain. So you can see here, we look at that balance of the microbiome, then we look at that dysbiosis index. So how overgrown is it? What is growing in there? What are inflammatory bacteria? What are opportunistic bacteria? And then you kind of get all your functional markers. This is a terrible one. I mean, this is a sample report, but they've really gone all out, because look at, holy moly, if I was treating this person, I'd be like, you are with me for a solid 6 months, because you've got to treat all those. You've got to treat these, which are autoimmune triggers, which Klebsiella links into SIBO. So definitely do a SIBO test as well. And then you can see here, inflammation markers, lysome, super high. So leaky gut lining, cells are separated, things going into the bloodstream, offsets your immune system. Immune system's pissed off, that's sitting high. So when you start to understand the report, you go, oh, that's why. Like, these are all the co-founding factors, because it's one thing to know you've got SIBO, to know you've got a parasite. Sure, that's basic. Anyone can tell you that. You can tell yourself that. But until you understand all the surrounding factors around that infection, why you have it, why your immune system hasn't kicked it out, and why it's impacting you so much, then it gets interesting, because then you're using a root cause approach. Then you're starting to go, hey, because of SIBO, low nutrients, poor digestion, bloating, all that stuff. So I hope that makes sense on the stool test side of things. I love the GI360. I think it's really a great one. Let me flip back across to where we want to be. I think it's a really great report. I've used different ones in the past, but the GI360, I would say, would be my favorite one, just because it gives you so much data. And as far as treatment plan wise, you can create a real specific treatment plan that you know is going to heal somebody, because it's got all those extra markers around it. I do have some podcast episodes on it. I've got some YouTube videos where I actually go into it a bit deeper. So podcast episode 157, I go in and I share screen on this YouTube video and actually show you all the markers properly, what they do, that kind of stuff. So that's a little bit more in depth. I won't do that tonight. And then I also go through when you're treating, in here somewhere, candida and parasites, and how that links into the stool testing as well, because I just think it's really important for people to understand that link, and how a parasite is not just a parasite. And also you can't treat candida in isolation, you can't treat gut infections in isolation, so you really need to understand these other factors around it. Same with SIBO. Hey, if you've got SIBO or suspect you have SIBO, then you need to run a stool test, because you need to understand, why is that bacteria in that small intestine in the first place? Has it migrated up? What is it doing? Why is it fermenting? Why am I not getting rid of it? Is it shitty digestion? So understanding that with your SIBO, understanding that with your large intestine is going to be a really critical part of your healing journey. The other one is the Dutch testing. So I'm going to show you the sample report for this as well. Dutch testing is incredible. I have no other words for it. I have YouTube videos on it. I have podcast episodes on it because it honestly is game changing. And I wish I could explain that more than that, but it is. Saliva testing is awesome. It looks at your hormone picture. It looks at your adrenal activity like this here. Let me go across to it. Let me just close that. So again, this is just a sample report. You'd be able to find this online. It does look at your hormones, but it really looks in depth at that adrenal activity over a day. So you really start to understand sort of what's going on with that adrenal pattern. And that is when you start to understand, okay, do I have adrenal fatigue? Because you're looking at the free cortisol and you're looking at metabolized cortisol. I won't go into this too much because I don't want to nerd out in that stuff, but you need to understand when you're talking about things like adrenal fatigue, is it a cortisol issue, as in, is it access to free cortisol, or is it adrenal production of cortisol? So there's a lot of information in a report like this, rather than just progesterone, or this one, estrogen's low, progesterone's fine. If that is the only data you're getting out of that, you are missing out so much. You need to look at metabolites. You need to look at how your body processes hormones from DHEA down, how the enzyme system works, how your androgens work, how your liver processing works, how you're clearing your hormones, how your stress is impacting your hormone activity. This also impacts HRT. This impacts bioidentical progesterone, which I love, and bioidentical estrogen, which I love. But you want to understand how you're clearing these hormones through your liver first. Make sure it's not going down the cancerous pathway. Make sure it's not going down this fibroid pathway. Support that detoxing so that you have healthy hormones. And then understanding how your B vitamins, your dopamine, your melatonin, all those things then also impact your whole adrenal hormonal picture. So this is why Dutch testing is great, because of the amount of data we can extract from it. It doesn't take away from the validity of saliva hormone testing, because I love the saliva hormone testing. The Dutch testing is like 400 Australian, that's wholesale. Your saliva testing is about 200 Australian. So it's half the price point because it gives half the data, but the data it gives on hormones and adrenals is still accurate. So that's a snapshot of the Dutch, really. When do I run it? HRT, perimenopause, heavy and painful periods, endo, any skin concerns, adrenal fatigue, infertility, PCOS, basically everything. So between your Dutch, your large intestine, and your small intestine, SIBO I don't run in all cases, only if I think they've got it, because I have a very good awareness now of who I will have SIBO and who won't, is when I recommend it or not. But large intestine, it's very rare that you can get away with me not doing a stool sample where it's like, girl, go poo in a cup. That is important. Dutch is important. Usually we add that in, I would say, 2 to 3 months into the program, because like I said, gut health is first. Let's fix your gut. Let's fix your energy. Let's get you feeling really good, assess your hormones, and then finish you up at the end of the program so you walk away pain-free, symptom-free, happy hormones, happy with your weight and your body composition. That's my goal for you, and that's what testing allows you to do. So the real common question I get that I thought I'd just touch on briefly before we wrap up is, how do I do this testing? You do it at home. So all these tests get sent to your house. You do them at home. Your practitioner, so say myself, has to authorize them through the labs, and then they get sent to your house. Yeah, you collect them at home, you send them back to the labs. They are worldwide. My clients are worldwide, so I have labs all around the world that the tests get sent to, because obviously, logistically, someone's stool sample in Canada is not going to get sent to a lab in Australia. So they are worldwide. You can do them everywhere. It's not through a GP. because as we've just discussed, GPs don't run this kind of testing, so it's not covered by Medicare and it's not run through a GP. But yeah, you've got to get it authorized, then you can access it, do it with your practice. Always work with someone who knows the testing. Don't try and self-treat it because you'll do yourself a disjustice, and also be careful who you run it with because you want someone who can analyze it, pull it apart, and actually extract what you need out of it, because your results will vary on how much information someone can pull out of your stool test. So the other question I really get asked a lot is people going, well, what's wrong with the one-off session? Why do you work inside a program? Now that you understand the value of testing, I feel like people then go, oh, of course, I couldn't just see a microbiome testing that's that in depth and expect to, in a 60-minute session, unpack, you know, candida, yeast, parasites, bacteria, leaky gut, inflammation. One, it's so overwhelming. Same with the Dutch test. If I dumped all the data in a Dutch test on you in a 60-minute session, you would literally do nothing because you'd be so overwhelmed. Two, you don't get the results then. Three, you fall off the bandwagon. So you have to be able to stagger it. One, so you heal the microbiome. There's no point putting you on a detoxing protocol for parasites if you're not even pooing, because you're going to kill something off, which is going to aggravate your symptoms. So we remove things, we get those detoxing strategies happening well, we repair that microbiome. Then the key thing that most people don't do is rebuild and restore it. So feed all your good gut flora so that you don't get reoccurrence, because reoccurrence of SIBO, parasites, bacteria, yeast is really, really high. And I don't want people coming back to me in 6 months to 2 years going, hey, so remember that time we treated SIBO? Yeah, well, I've got it again and nothing changed, because that's crap and that's not the point of working with someone for 6 months. So you work on your nervous system, because stress, anxiety will impact SIBO. You work on your exercise, your diet changes, your hormones, your thyroid, because that impacts motility. And then we go, okay, you also want motivation, accountability, and answers to your questions. If you have a question, you want to answer it in 24 to 48 hours, because if you're reacting to a food, you want to know what to do. And that is the promise with inside my program. So when you understand testing, you understand the value of working long-term and going, hey, Sheridan doesn't do quick fixes. I want a long-term result. I'm going to put the effort in. So some of my client examples with SIBO, I love Nessa's on the right-hand side, because this is the classic thing again, right? So she wasn't overweight at all. She wasn't pregnant, even though she looks pregnant. And same with Maddie, same thing. It's just that classic bloat. There's no other words for it. The bloating will impact your self-confidence, your ability to do things, your constipation will impact that stuff as well. So you want to feel confident to exercise, go to the gym, wear your clothes, go out to dinner and not stress about feeling bloated. These are the things you understand when you run the testing and know what's happening with that gut microbiome. Same with skin stuff. Dutch testing is amazing for skin stuff because it helps give you clarity on what's going on from a hormonal level. And then also that will impact weight, that will impact the healing from the skin. Micronutrients will be a big one as well. So zinc and those deficiencies will also impact your healing. Skin, bloating, major bloating changes, especially the SIBO stuff. You can see the top one to the bottom one. She didn't actually lose any weight. A lot of women come to me going, I don't know if I need to lose weight. Like, am I just fat or am I just bloated? I can guarantee you most of the time it's just a SIBO bloat. Eczema is a big one as well. Chloe's seen huge shifts. I did a post on her the other day actually, because she's had eczema for 12 years, never been able to clear it, and we're now 3 weeks of eczema free inside the program, which is amazing. So make sure you book a session. You've got the link there, or it's on my website. If you want to chat to me, you can definitely nerd out on the podcast. You guys probably all follow me on Instagram anyway, so you can definitely see a lot of things that are happening there. That's where I post most of my content. You can jump in my Facebook group, just search Gut Health Solutions. That'll give you just updates of podcast stuff, workshops, questions you have, you can pop there. But I would love to know questions from you guys on any of this stuff that I can help with. Please pop them in the chat group for me, or if you want me to go back to something that is relevant for you. I'll just give you a minute. Just let me know, or you can even unmute yourself and turn your video on if you actually want to chat to me. Either. It's nice to have you here. It is nice to see your face sometimes as well. No questions from anyone. If not, then I will choose from these guys. That's there. I will email out the recording. So for anyone listening, thanks for listening to the recording. I appreciate it. Please reach out if you have any questions for me. But if there's no questions from anyone tonight, then thank you for showing up. It's nice to see you. Cod liver oil. Yeah, so I included that on my iron post on Instagram. If you go back to the one why you have low iron, I love cod liver oil for increasing iron, for healing gut. It also feeds Akkermansia. Yeah, it'll come out in the recording will come out via email after I end this call, so that's fine. But yeah, cod liver oil, I don't have any issues with. I find it helps a lot with iron, healing leaky gut, and feeding different strains of bacteria that specifically love omegas in the gut. No worries at all. Cool. Thank you, everyone. I will end it there for you then. Thank you so much for jumping on tonight. I appreciate it, and hopefully I will see you in a call sometime soon.